Hey guys, back again, week 5 in the NFL, and we got some guys that we're going to go over if it's too late or too early to pull the plug, or maybe some guys you're going to trade after because it's like I said, it's week 5, and we can sense a trend early. So we gotta make some moves for those of you guys that are need some wins, or some of you guys that are even sitting pretty, and then you could stash some guys for the future down the stretch. So as always, guys, I'm here with Michael, and let's get into it, big dog. Week 5.
What's up, man? Yeah, there's we put some big names on this list, and it time to pull the plug on them completely, or is it time to just sell what you can and get parts back? I mean, it's week 5, and we're already talking about some pretty big names here. Getting right into it, man. Let's start with running backs. Because running backs seems to be the position to where it's one of the more important. You're trying to get two running backs for sure. But the first one that comes to my head, man, is Alvin Kamara. So, we've talked about this. I know he's been hurt. He's had his legal troubles, but he was drafted like in the first or second round, and he's had 7 point in the 2 games he's played, 7.3 and 7.6. How much of that is a trend going forward? I mean, he has a pretty green matchup this week. I know are we holding him for one more week? Are we trying to sell him on name alone? I mean, what would be your plan there?
My plan would be to test the waters via trade. I'd float his name out there and see what you can get. But right now, you're not going to get a whole lot. And the upside of getting him, so he's a kind of a guy that I could see like you in your situation, where if you're a team that's undefeated or 3-1, and you can afford to take a risk and go for a guy, because man, that risk can pay off big time down the stretch. And even this week, I honestly think he's going to have a pretty decent week. He sounds like he's good to go. He's saying he's good to go. So for Kamara, the upside is too much to just pull the plug on completely. Um, but he's let you down. You're probably struggling if you had him. You drafted him first round, second round, and like you just mentioned, he's got 15 points total on the season. So it's tough. It's tough. You're in a tough situation, I'm sure. So you got to do something. So do you risk? Are you in a position to where you can, you know, risk playing them, and hopefully this is the week? Probably not. You might need to get some safety, and flip them for a couple. You might be able to get like a little 2-for-1 special and get maybe a guy like Kareem Hunt, someone that's more safe that you can get, because you need points and you haven't been getting them from Kamara. So you got to do something. But it really depends on where you're at in the standings. If you have them and you've been had an insurance policy already in place and you've been getting by and you've been winning, then hang on to him. He's worth hanging on to for sure.
Mhm.
But it really just depends where you're at in the standings.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're 1-3, I mean, you're gonna look to be making a move because you need those points. I mean, 7 points a week from your number one number one running back for all intents and purposes. Yeah, you need to make a move. Now, what worries me about Alvin Kamara is, so obviously we know a lot about his legal troubles. We've gone into that in previous podcasts. We don't need to get into that now. But how much, like, his health is a question now. He's dealing with rib injuries. I mean, the pain level, is it tolerable for him? Stuff like that. But how much acclimation does he have with this new offense? How much does he have acclimation with Jameis and going forward? I know last year when Jameis was in, like, Alvin didn't really play that well, and he wasn't really one of those top tier running backs with Jameis, because Jameis looks down the field, right? So
Right.
is Alvin really his values in PPR as a receiving back? Does he have that value still? I don't know. I don't believe so. How much are you willing to give up for that kind of a risk right now? There's just a lot of question marks. Now, obviously, we talk about his name and 56 points on Christmas, stuff like that. You know what he's capable of. Is that the same Alvin Kamara we're seeing in 2022? Is he worth, packaging two middle level players for someone like that?
To me, it really depends where you're at in the standings, like I said. And if you're at a good spot, then yeah, I'd go for him just because the upside, dude. Um, yeah, I know he hasn't been great, and Jameis is not a check down guy,
Mm-hmm.
but Andy Dalton could be a starter for a couple weeks. They might be resting Jameis here, and if that's the case, Dalton could hook him up.
That's true.
And like I said, I'm not pulling the plug on Kamara just yet.
Okay. Yeah, he's definitely a buy low candidate. You don't.
Probably
he's
low for sure.
tradable. Yeah, he's tradable. You're not going to drop him or nothing like that. I don't, if NFL or these sites would even let you drop him.
Right.
Next guy I have up on my list is actually Ezekiel Elliott. So this guy he only has 1 touchdown through 4 games. He hasn't broken the 75-yard mark in any of those games. The last 2 weeks, he has gotten in the double digits, 14.9 against the Giants, I think 10 point something against Washington. But Tony Pollard has been taking about half the snaps there. They're pretty equal as far as fantasy points are concerned. Going forward, I mean, is he a guy that, I mean, I have Tony Pollard, and I'm perfectly fine with him because I think he's producing exactly how you think he'd produce. But Zeke, I mean, you think you're drafting him in the 3rd round, you're expecting him to score 15 to 20 points a week, right?
Yeah, and now's the time to get rid of him because there are some running backs. Patterson's on IR. There are DeAndre Swift, Montgomery. There are some running backs that are out right now, and Zeke, he's safe, man. These teams, like we just talked about, needing some points, and at least Zeke gives you something. I know he's not like have the upside that Kamara has, but he's safe. And if you're a team that needs some points and like you drafted him more than likely as an RB2, hopefully if you did an RB1, then you are probably 0-4 in your league or not doing so good. But either way, if like I said, if you have Zeke as a RB2, then you're not dying, and you can try to get rid of him to one of these teams, that are desperate.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, he should be averaging about 8 to 9 points as his floor. He's gotten 5.9 a couple times. I think that was more because of the split carry situation. His value seems to go up when Dak's out of the lineup, which is kind of weird. That offense looks a little bit better with Cooper Rush. So I don't know. Maybe going forward, if Cooper stays, I don't know. Maybe they hand the ball off a little bit more. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, if you have Tony Pollard, I mean, it's something that where you don't need to make a move for Zeke because you're kind of getting the same production there. But yeah, if you have somebody like Cordell Patterson, you need to make a move and you have an extra receiver. That's something where, again, you're not going to drop Ezekiel Elliott, but you are looking maybe to get rid of him to see a piece that you can get in return. Next guy up, another high profile back, man, somebody you took in the 1st round that kind of the same situation is Minnesota and Dalvin Cook. So right now, Alexander Madison is getting a lot of run down there in Minnesota, and
Especially on the goal line.
Yeah, and one of my biggest concerns is his shoulder. So this is something that he's had year on and year out, every single year. He has that shoulder, and it obviously it's something that's never going to be right. He's going to pop it out of place all the time. It's gonna hinder him his entire career. Same thing with Dalvin, man. He's not producing the way you thought he would going into the season. You hear everybody talk about how they're going to be more pass heavy, and they have been. How worried are you about Dalvin? I mean, this might be a different
Honestly,
situation.
like, yeah, I'm more worried about him than Kamara. I feel like Kamara, he's new to this whole injury thing. Kamara's normally been pretty durable and pretty steady. Dalvin's been dealing with this, it seems like, forever.
Since college,
and yeah, I like if someone who's always got a guy hurt on their fantasy team, I wouldn't want that on the roster. So obviously you can't drop him, but I would see what you can get for him. Like basically same thing with Zeke. He could be a guy. Look to one of these teams. There are plenty of teams out there that went wide receiver heavy, didn't even wait to draft a running back until the middle of the round. So they might be loaded up on wide receiver, and they need a running back. You could offer a Dalvin Cook and maybe get 2 guys. Who knows? Because his name alone is worth something. So you could probably flip him. But yeah, he's not a guy you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You don't see upside right now. That offense they got, it's going to go through Justin Jefferson anyway. So and Madison is legit, man. On the goal line, that dude, he's good. He's a complete back too. So it's crazy when they don't have Dalvin. That dude looks like a true RB1. And when Dalvin gets that workload, he hasn't been able to look like that in a couple of years, it seems like. So, yeah, I would try to get rid of him. And it's the same thing. If you're in a good position, but is it worth giving up anything? Like, honestly, he's not a guy that I go buy low. He's a guy I try to get rid of, though, for sure. I don't even want to know if I buy because I don't see I don't see the upside down the road. Like the Vikings can be good, the offense can be good, but they've been pretty solid in without him doing much. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's not a crucial part of the offense as he used to be.
Yeah, you're kind of hoping for one of those just breakout games because he had those. Like last year against Pittsburgh, he had that like 180-yard, 2-touchdown game. I mean, you're hoping for those, but if you're a good manager, when you draft Dalvin in the first round, like in the 10th, the 12th round, you drafted Alexander Masson behind him. And if you're one of those managers, then you really don't have much to worry about. Only thing you have is which one's going to hit that week. Last week, Masson scored the touchdown. So who's going to hit? But yeah, man, I mean, if you don't have Masson behind you, I would consider trading Dalvin to the team who does have Alexander Masson and make sure that they have that duo and see because then they have more value and you're going to get more in return to somebody like that. So kind of think of something like that. I know a trade in my other league, Masson was traded to the guy who had Dalvin and they got a pretty good return. So thinking of stuff like that, that's how you manipulate the situation and get the most in return. Going into some second tier guys here, still sitting at running back. I'm talking about Cam Akers. We talked about him a little bit yesterday, I believe, and we were both high on him. I think we both had him like 13th on our running back going into the season. Yeah. This is where I'm a little torn because you're starting to see since week 1 when he had 0 points, you're starting to see an uptick in touches, but not production. So is that a product of the offense, or is that something where he's not really trusting that offense anymore?
I think it's the offense, man. I think that offensive line is not really good. I don't think Stafford has a lot of time to go through progressions. I think he's cup, and more cup. And then when they go to hand it off, it's almost predictable. So that offense is just kind of a mess right now. That being said, he's talented, man. Like he's a guy that I wouldn't mind buying low for, seeing if you can get rid of, especially if you're in a good situation, because the upside, we've seen what he can do a couple years ago. And dude, he was on my breakout list for sure. He was a top, I think, 15 running back on my rankings. So dude, like I had high hopes for him, and the volume is starting to increase, like you were mentioning. So for me, he's a buy low guy all day. I don't drop him. He's been a letdown, a huge letdown, one of the biggest letdowns in fantasy so far this season. So you might be in a position to where you need to deal him, and we got a guy that has him in our league, Michael. He's on his bench, So if you have a guy that wants to pony up a little bit to try to stash him in hopes for a breakout, then go for it. See what you can get.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I would probably, like me personally, I would try to target. You're right. The talent's there. The talent is there. And I think that offense at some point is going to figure it out. I mean, they're going to have their weeks. But I just looked up their schedule. And, I mean, they have Dallas and Carolina these next 2 weeks. Both those are, yellow matchups right in the middle. Hoping for a touchdown to have a big game out of someone like Akers. But, I mean, Daryl Henderson's been getting worked down by the goal line, too. And he actually looks better in that offense.
He's getting more pass catching work too, which is like they're almost using Akers as a strictly between the tackles, run the ball kind of guy, and that's not what you drafted him for, and that's not even coming out of Florida State. I thought he was going to be good in the pass game and be utilized that way. And they use Henderson. It's got to be pass protection. I'm thinking he must struggle. He must miss some assignments in the pass pro, because the talent is there. There must be something going on. He's not picking up the right reads, or something's got to be going on. Maybe he's doing the wrong thing on routes. Who knows?
Yeah,
but something's going on.
Yeah, there's something, because I mean, even in the playoffs last year, like he looked like he was just set to break out and be a top 10 fantasy running back, and it just hasn't come. But so I mentioned Dallas and Carolina, then he has a bye. Coming out of that bye, he has San Francisco and Tampa. So I mean, these next 2 weeks, you might get like a double-digit performance.
So you have to get rid of him. If you're a team right now and your team, you drafted him to be your RB2 more than likely, and he hasn't lived up to that. He's not going to live up to that for the next month. So you got to get rid of him. You got to pull the plug, trade him, get him off your roster, and get anything that you can get. Look for one of those teams that maybe has a Henderson or it look for one of those first place teams, second place teams that can afford to part with a little something and get him off your roster.
As a first place team or a team that's going to target him, what's worth in your book? What would be something that you'd be willing to give up for someone like Cam Akers?
That's it's so tough to say, just a random name because without looking at rosters and seeing
Well,
needs
like a mid range wide receiver. Are you talking about maybe like
assuming I mean if you are getting rid of Akers, you probably need a running back. So, but it's hard to do running back for running back type deal. Normally, it's a running back for a receiver or receiver running back type thing. So,
yeah.
But even then, if you've already made some adjustments with Akers after that 0 point week 1, so I'm sure you got an insurance plan in place. So at this point, take whatever you can get. If you can get a mid-range wide receiver 3 flex guy, then go for it. Just take some type of production, any type of set production. I would take it for him, like even dude like I don't know. I just picked up a Corey Davis, and Zach Wilson likes Corey Davis, so even like a Elijah Moore, like just someone who actually hasn't lived up to the hype either, so he might be a buy low kind of guy that you can get for Akers right now, something like that.
Elijah Moore is actually on my wide receiver list, and we're gonna get to him here in a second. So I'm glad you brought him up. But I have one more running back on here, and this is the one that me personally I'm invested in, and that's Travis Etienne. I have so many mixed feelings. I think as an owner, I have mixes. Yeah, we talked about him on the show yesterday, and the Jamal Agnew factor and that 2 touchdowns that really just drove a dagger into your heart. I'm at the point now. Yeah, it's about time to pull the plug, test the waters, but. I want to hold him. Like I want to hold to see like if he wakes up, if something happens, if James Robinson gets hurt, something happens, but
that's what I would do. That's what I would do. You kind of have to, and it's worth it, and especially in your position where you are the 1 seed undefeated, you can do that because what if that does happen? What if Robinson does go down and you're not going to? What are you going to get for him? Who's going to give up anything? It's been 2 years of his NFL career, and he hasn't had a good game yet, like a really good game yet. Has he even scored a touchdown? Mm-hmm. So like you're not going to get much for him right now. I'm sorry, Max. Every time I talk about this guy, I feel awful. I feel so bad, dude. He's been a letdown, but hopefully, Max, don't drop him. I still don't say to drop him, but don't pull the plug entirely. You're obviously not getting him in your lineup, but there's a chance if something happens to Robinson. Fuck, watch Agnew take over, dude. He better not. No.
Oh man, I would lose my shit, man. I'm kind of hoping because I drafted him as an RB2, and I thought behind Mixon, I thought that was going to be a decent tandem, right? And that has not come out. There's been a couple games to where he's been a couple, he dropped a touchdown in week 1. He's a couple inches short of another touchdown in another game. But James Robinson cleans everything up. So, I made the mistake of not getting James Robinson behind him, and that was where not drafting Etienne in the 4th, but not getting Robinson behind him was my big mistake.
That's probably the bigger mistake, right?
Yeah. So I was full blown on Travis Etienne. I thought, hey, PPR, he's going to be a monster, and I still think that he can progress into it. But right now, he's probably going to be one of those guys that you're going to start seeing on waivers. And maybe down the line, he's going to be one of the big waiver ads later in the season if something happens. But as of right now, I'm going to hold him. I don't think, like you said, there's not really a trade value for him. I'm going to hold him. Right. And he's going to be just deep down my bench, and, we'll see what happens. But we have one more, actually one.
One more back. I was going to say Jonathan Taylor, right? We got to get him in the mix because I drafted him number 1 overall in my other league. And my goodness, I think he's like RB 20 something 30 range, like he's like RB2, RB3 flex borderline is what he's been all year. So it's been tough, man. I also got Montgomery in that league, so man, I'm having to manage my way. Luckily I got some receivers, but I got to manage my way through here with some running backs.
Yeah, we got to get you one of those little pin dolls, man, because someone's got a hex on you, bro, because every year you have like these great drafts and then something happens to where like they get hurt by the middle of the year. But Jonathan Taylor, man, you're right. He's in the 20s and he's played 4 weeks, right? But it's not going to get any better. That ankle, I mean, a week or two, he's going to be out. He's definitely out tonight. He'll probably be out, I'm guessing, one more week
I
at
think
the
just
most.
tonight. I think it's just today. I think next week he'll be back. That dude's an
Yeah, well,
Iron Man. But before this game, and it's not so much like the injury that I'm worried about. It's the production because he, like you said, he's been fine, and I think he's gonna be fine. He just missed his first practice. He's gonna miss his first game since high school. So he's durability. I'm not so concerned. I think he'll be back. He's got 10 days plus to get ready for next week. So I think he'll be fine. But it's just the production, dude. Is it because of Matt Ryan? Is it like what's going on with his production? That's what I'm worried about.
I think it's a little bit more teams are starting to zone in on him a little bit. They're starting to load the box against him. Last year, not saying that they weren't doing that last year, but last year, he still was kind of a fresh, thing to the league.
Right.
Now it's, hey, the leading rusher's coming in, we got to stop him. That's
Right.
who we got to hone in on. I think that has
And
something to
maybe
do
they should. They need to. I'm sorry to cut you off. Maybe they should get Hines on the field more then and just go spread because Matt Ryan. We just saw them like they got down big, and then Matt Ryan brings them back towards the end a little bit, and he can do a 2-minute drill with the best of them.
Yeah.
Get Hines out there, go spread a little more often, just save JT for the goal line work once you get close. Because he's not probably as good in like the shotgun formations as Hines is. So use the best players and score points and move the ball offensively. They just run them into the wall basically over and over again is what it seems like. And to your point, they're loading the box up, so spread them out, do something.
Yeah,
But do you trade them? Do you deal? What do you do with them if you were like?
that's a really
I'm
tough
hanging
trade
on
to
to
make.
them. Yeah, I'm hanging on to them for sure because the upside. So I'm gonna hang on to them.
That's a really tough trade to make. But as far as his health right now, I mean, he has a very, very similar injury to like Amon-Ra St. Brown. They both have, like a twisted ankle. Amon-Ra, same thing. He was an Iron Man. And I think with the situation, like it's a long season. The only reason I say like maybe one more week, I'm not sure their bye. I think their bye is like week 14. Like they have a late bye. But you might want to hold him out just to make sure he's completely healthy. But now that you have that 10-day stretch, like we'll see next Sunday if he plays. Obviously you want all the best players to play, so I hope he actually plays. But you see what like Green Bay is doing with like AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. Like having both of them on the field at the same time, have a dual threat. That will give Jonathan Taylor a lot more value because then you don't know where the ball's going. But having him, line up in the eye and just hand the ball off down the gut, like that's not going to work anymore. So in that division, it's gotten a little bit tougher. Jacksonville is a tough matchup now. Tennessee's always been pretty decent against the run. I know, Jeffrey Simmons, he's a fucking baller right there in the front. But I mean, you got Houston. You'll be able to ball against Houston. But matchups might be getting a little tougher too. But it's not going to be any better for him for the next couple of weeks. That's for sure. If he's going to be out of a lingering ankle.
Yeah, I might have to put a name out there on the trade market actually. But I'm not as worried in that league because I'm not struggling in that league. So I think I'm just gonna hang on to him, just like I said, just because the upside. So I'll hang on to him. I think that wraps up our running backs though, right? So let's get into some
that's it for
wide
running
receivers.
backs. Biggest profile name I have on the receiver list. This has been due to injury, and that's Keenan Allen. So what do you want to do with Keenan Allen right now? That injury, that hamstring injury, seems to be lingering, and every week it's like, okay, well, Keenan Allen will be back next week.
I would deal him. Him. Just thinking about it, just based off his name, he might be able to get a little something for him because it's Keenan Allen. People might see the upside, but he's not a big play guy. He's I don't want to compare him to Hunter Renfro, but he's like almost like a better version, because he lines up out wide. I don't know.
To me, he's almost like Chris Godwin. Like he's a good comparison to Godwin. Like they both.
I feel like the toughness and Godwin, like I've seen Godwin get downfield plenty. You hardly see Keenan, like it's always Mike Williams downfield or guiding. He doesn't run the deep stuff. He can't do that. Like Godwin will at least he can be multiple, and Godwin is a guy that he can get you 25. Like I don't even know if Keenan Allen, if those days are, if they're just gone or what. Just because Herbert, he's a big play quarterback. He looks downfield, and they got other guys running those routes. Whether it's Palmer, it was Guyton. Mike Williams is definitely their big play guy, And dude, freaking Gerald Everett is emerging in that offense as what, like, they lined him up almost in the Keenan Allen role. They ISO'd him out there, dude, and he's a tough cover, and he's been the guy that is playing that role, kind of moving the chains for him. And Mike Williams has been doing just fine. So the offense, it's not like the offense has been struggling. They just so I don't know. Like I said, I'd sell him based on his name because I don't see the upside, especially where you drafted him. And you probably drafted him as a wide receiver too, and I just don't see him as that like this year. I see Mike Williams better than him going forward this year.
Yeah, I mean, just last year, I mean, he had big games last year. So I mean, I can see him like when he comes back, just kind of emerging in the offense. But the mouths to feed, like Mike Williams, Josh Palmer. We didn't even talk about Eckler. Like Eckler has come on and had like 8 catches last week. He's starting to come on in that past game. So I agree with you. I think if you have him right now, you look to see what you can get for him on name alone. But if you're in the position to be patient with him, because I still think he's got 20-point games in him. But he's got to be healthy, man. I'm more worried about right now that hamstring continuing. You look at like Julio Jones and how that hamstring just lingered and kind of ruined the guy's career. He kind of emerged week 1 and now he's hurt again. It's just, is Keenan Allen that guy? He's always going to be hurt when you need him the most. That's my biggest question mark. So yeah, I mean, and he's always hurt week 15, 16. So if you have championship aspirations, I trade him now.
Right. How about another receiver? I got Gabe Davis. I actually just traded him. He had a touchdown week 1, should have had 2 touchdowns week 1. Dropped the touchdown, I think it was week 3 after missing with an ankle week 2. And then he's been full participant in practice, so he's starting to get healthy. So the arrow should be pointing up. He's got a good matchup this week. Like I said, I traded him though. I got him in a trade that I went and got Godwin for. I just see a lot more upside with Godwin, and I know like his first full game with the Bucks against the Chiefs, he led the team in targets with 10. That's Tom Brady's guy. That's his little security blanket. Him and Mike Evans, they're going to be the target hogs in Tampa going forward. So Gabe Davis, like he had 3 targets last week against Baltimore. I know it was the elements and everything, but 3 targets, that's not going to cut it. He dropped another ball yesterday too. He dropped a touchdown. He dropped another ball yesterday. Maybe it's the ankle because the chemistry. I was really high on him coming in the year, and actually still have him in my other league. So I hope he comes on here, and I think he will. But man, he's been a guy that's been kind of a letdown so far.
Yeah, I think the ankle has derailed him a little bit. I still think, I mean, you saw week 1 his capability, 20 points against the Rams. I mean, you see the capability there. And this is, to me, he's almost in a different situation than like Keenan Allen with his injury. I think that when he comes back, I mean, you want
I value him higher. I value him higher right now. If
I would say
Keenan Allen for him.
I would say he's more of a sell high candidate. Like, are you disappointed in his output the last 3 weeks? Absolutely. I mean, he's scored a combined 5 points in 3 weeks. So are you concerned about his production? Absolutely, you are. But Isaiah McKenzie looks like he's going to be dealing with some stuff now. Digsy's been kind of banged up, but I mean, he's been balling. I think he's a wide receiver 1 or 2. But he's somebody that you actually want to sell high on. So I wouldn't, if you have Gabe Davis, you want to sell high. Now you just traded him and you got Chris Godwin in return. That's not selling high. That's selling low. And you got Chris Godwin, and the comparison there is not even close. I mean, even if on their best, on Gabe's best.
Well, it wasn't a straight up trade, so it's not makes robbed dude. Kareem Hunt, I threw in Kareem Hunt and got Chase Edmonds, so he's getting a better, safer running back, and I'm getting I don't really need. I got Aaron Jones and Eckler, so I don't really need the running back. So I needed swap too. Right, but that was kind of like a wash. He was frustrated with Kyle Pitts. That was another buy low guy.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't
I'm
like a
frustrated with
robbery.
him.
It's just, I mean, when you're talking about the receiver compared to the receiver, so you definitely upgrade
Right.
the receiver is my point.
Exactly, and that was the goal. That was the goal,
Yeah,
and getting your roster. You see your roster, and if you can upgrade at a certain position, I had to sacrifice a flex slash bench guy, and then Bizer coming up. So Kareem Hunt would have been nice to have. But I mean, gonna have to roll the dice with Chase Edmonds or work the waivers. We'll see how it goes.
yeah, but yeah, no. If you have Gabe Davis, I mean, it's a sell high or hold situation. You're not dropping him by any means. I mean, he's gonna wake up a little bit. So, there's that guy. Now I have some guys that we're not talking about trading them. We're talking about, are we going to keep them or are we going to drop them? And this is Allen Robinson. Okay, so we've talked about Allen Robinson. Is it time to drop Allen Robinson? I mean, he has zero trade value. So are you still holding on to Allen Robinson, hoping that offense wakes up, or is it time to just cut him loose?
Yeah, I'm gonna give him one more week. I think that there's a lot of hype going on around him personally right now. Like, why the hell did they sign him? Bring back OBJ? Um, waste of money. But he's coming off, I think, 6 targets with, I think, is the season high. So I think that they just gotta find a way. You can't invest into that. And like I know there's a lot of talk about the separation. He doesn't create any separation, but back shoulder him, Stafford, like to put it in a spot to where he can make a play for it and trust him to make a play, dude. That's what you paid him for. He's not a guy that's gonna create a bunch of space. He's not a burner. He's a good hands, good route runner, good feet kind of guy. So you're gonna have to trust him a little bit as a quarterback. And it seems like Stafford only trusts Cooper Kupp right now. So, but yeah, it's just a one more week thing. If I see another 2 or 3 targets only, then I'll cut him. I'll drop him. I've had him. I drafted him as a flex guy. It was between him and Kareem Hunt as my flex. I think in round like 6 or 7, whatever round it was. I think it was the same round you got Amon-Ra, same round, dude. So like, obviously there were some expectations for Allen Robinson from Rams fans and for me personally. But yeah, there's, like you said, there's no trade value. But I personally, he's on my roster. I'm giving him at least one more week. I look in my other league too, and same with dude. The commissioner got him in that league, and he hasn't dropped him yet either. So
Yeah.
I think that the talent, the upside, and he's got Stafford. Like, maybe we all still believe in just a little bit, But one more week, dude, and it's over. It's
Yeah,
done.
yeah. He's on waivers in my other league, and no one's even looking at him. I mean, he's projected like 7 points. It's what worries me about Allen Robinson is so there's a little bit of wave starting to happen with like Odell Beckham Jr., right? They're talking about November as a return for him. And I mean, obviously number one destination would probably be back in LA. LA, maybe somewhere like Green Bay. But if it happens to be back in LA, I mean, he becomes wide receiver too, like that. I mean, he knows the offense. He has chemistry with Stafford. And that's the one thing that seems to be lacking there is the chemistry with Stafford. I mean, he just looks for cups so often. So if that was to happen, I mean, his
He's
value
got
goes to
Dallas
zero.
this week. Just looking at his schedule, he's had 4 out of the first 5 are red matchups. He's got Dallas this week, then he's got Carolina, and then he's got a bye, and then it's San Francisco, another red matchup. And then
So
it's Tampa, Arizona, another red. There's like no green until Kansas City in week like 13, 14.
and
Dude,
by
I
that
think I
time,
just
is there a possibility that Van Jefferson will be back probably by then? Odell
pull the
Beckham
plug.
maybe with the
That's
team.
it. I'll drop his ass right now, dude.
Yeah, now that you see that, I mean, it might change a little bit, but the one good week he had was against Atlanta, and he had like 3 red zone targets, one called back.
They were the green. Yeah, he had 15 points, 5 targets, 4 catches, 53 yards, and a touchdown against Atlanta.
That might be his ceiling, and that's what you're kind of praying for every week. And how likely is it to do that again? I just don't see it. So you could probably go out and get, like you said, Corey Davis is a guy. He's getting targets right now. There's guys on waivers you could probably go and get the same amount of production and probably have about the same hope for touchdown. So that's just my 2 cents on Allen Robinson. Next guy I have on the list, Darnell Mooney. So this is another guy we were kind of high on going into the season, and it's not really his fault, but it's his quarterback's fault. or his offense's fault. Like, they are not throwing the ball in Chicago. So what are we doing with Darnell Mooney?
Darnell Mooney, dude, he was on waivers in our league. Someone just picked him up. He had, I think, his best game. It was not this week or 2 weeks ago. But yeah, he's the same thing, man. He's droppable. He's a spot start here and there. They don't throw the ball. You can't trust a home run to happen when it happens once every 4 games. So that's done for me. I'm pulling the plug. I was high on him too, but not that high, and I'm not that loyal, so not to him anyway. So
Yeah.
I just don't see it. Not with that offense, unless what, do they need a new coach or what? I mean, they're not even attempting to throw it, but so it's a mess in Chicago.
Well,
Except for Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, Matt Eberflus is a new coach, and they have Ryan Pace as their new GM, and both those guys were coming. It was supposed to be a rebuild down there in Chicago. They're actually 2-2 somehow. I don't know how. Are they 2-2 or 1-3? They're not.
I think they're 2-2.
Yeah, they're 2-2. I mean, they're not terrible. It's just fantasy wise, they're not. If your name's not,
there's nobody fantasy wise on, like, not even the defense. The Cole Kmet, there was some hype around that. He's done. Mooney's done. It's Khalil Herbert and Montgomery. That's it.
Yeah, and hopefully you have both of them. Like, I have both of them in my other league. So,
Monty practiced today. Hopefully he plays this week.
Yeah, they're both on my bench this week, but I'm going to kind of ride that wave. I'm in a position where I have Saquon and Eckler, so I don't really need Monty or Cleel.
Look, so I do. I got Taylor and Monty, so both of them are banged up. So I need Monty.
Yeah. But yeah, as far as Darnell Mooney, like, cut him, let him go. They don't pass the ball. They don't throw the ball down there. Them and the Giants, like, you don't really want any part of the Giants offense. I took a shot on Richie James. I had him on my bench. Thank God I sat him last week. But yeah, I dropped that real fast. But
right.
Last guy I have on my list as far as receivers. This one probably should have been a drop a couple of weeks ago, but I had a question about it from my son, actually, in his little league. So is Jarvis Landry. I'm going to answer that question right now. Drop Jarvis Landry. Chris Olave has emerged. Michael Thomas is back. When Kamara comes back, there's just too many targets to go around for him to have any kind of – he had a big week 1, so I understand where your heart might tell you, like, hey, hang on to him. But yeah, it's time to drop Jarvis, move on, and love the guy. He's a pit bull, but it's time to move on.
Definitely, especially with Jameis being questionable. He had an opportunity last week with Michael Thomas out. It was just Olave, and he didn't step up. So no, I don't see it happening. Not with Dalton, maybe with Jameis, but you got to see something. And then at that point, just use your waiver. But even then, he's not even worth the waiver. You can just put in a ad at some point if you feel. But then he's got to show it, and he hasn't shown it for years. So you could
something's gonna have to happen for him to be relevant again. So I just wanted to throw that one in there real quick. I knew that was going to be a quick one. We have 2 tight ends I want to talk about real quick if we have time.
Yeah. First one, I already know who the first one is.
First one, Kittle. George Kittle. Is it the offense? I mean, I've seen memes all over the place, like, oh, he's used as a tackle now. He is a great run blocking tight end. He's also a great playmaker. And I mean, I know he was that close to catching a touchdown last week, but in all intents and purposes, he didn't. So where do you go? It's been 2 weeks now. Where do you go with George Kittle? And, he was actually a trade in my other league. I saw it. Someone went up and got him.
Yeah, dump his ass. Get rid of, if you can sell for the name, then sell for the name. See what you can get. But if you have him on your roster and you're still continuing to put him in your lineup, you're probably a 49er fan, because there's no way in hell. Like, and some people like him. Like, dude, he's come off to me kind of corny. Like, he flip flopped so quick to the Trey Lance thing, and I think that has something to do. Like, he was quick with the Trey area and all that, and Jimmy G, dude. Like, you don't think he heard all that? Like, he's down to throw to Jennings. He's down to throw to Debo, who had his back. So the volume hasn't been there. It's brittle Kittle for a reason, dude. Like, and plus he's always hurt. He got paid, and like, dude, he's all about, like, I seen, like, on NFL Network, they're doing an interview and he comes up and crashes the thing just to get on camera and shit. Dude, like that's what dude, you can't even play on the field. But yet you're over here doing that. You're crashing press conferences and stuff, dude. Like
No.
he's all about the limelight and getting paid and promoting the tight end position, not being the dog that he used to be and that got him paid. He seems like maybe that money and that fame got to his head a little bit. So and I like it. Jimmy G, throw it to Debo, throw it to these other guys if he wants to be flip flopping like that.
Yeah,
So
I like
I get rid of him. Sorry.
I like George Kittle for the fact that like he, you'll see times where he's like blocked, like pancaking guys, and he just have a big smile on his face. Like I like that kind of stuff, but he hasn't done that in 2 years now. I mean,
Right.
last big game I can remember was with their third string quarterback on Monday Night Football when
Mullins.
Yeah, he's now a Minnesota Viking, baby. Yeah, I can't believe I forgot Nick Mullins, but no, I just haven't heard from him in a couple of years, and the name alone, you still kind of have in the back of your mind, like, hey, maybe he'll wake up. I don't think that's
It's got to be to a team that's sitting pretty, because no one's going to obviously want to give up much for him.
Yeah.
But if you're a team that is 3-1 or 4-0 and you've been doing it without a tight end that's high profile, you've been streaming a tight end, and you want to take a chance, because you never know, he couldn't go in there and make up with Jimmy G, and they could start getting more involved. And like the talent is undeniable. He was arguably the most talented tight end in the league. But just the production, just what's been going on with that offense. I like he was on my sits list last week, and I was the one I actually got right. And he's not doing it. He hasn't been performing, dude. It's been, like you said, a couple years. So for me, sell on his name. Just sell.
Yeah, yes. I mean, his name alone. Last guy we have is, obviously the guy you just acquired, and how worried we are about Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, obviously, he's the 18th ranked tight end right now, and now he's dealing with injury. So hopefully he plays this week, man. I mean, if he doesn't, hopefully it's not serious.
I don't think he is, dude. 2 DMPs in a row, Wednesday and Thursday. It's trending in the wrong direction. And honestly, this is the week you just said I traded for him. And I was high on him coming into this season. The talent, dude, he's talented. They haven't been getting him the ball, and he's been drawing a lot of coverage. So Mariota's been going to Drake London a lot, and he's been producing. So, yeah, I actually bought low on him because and I was hoping, especially this week, dude, the matchup. This was the week for him to do. He finally had a green matchup. The one green matchup he had against Seattle, I think he had 18 points. And he had another green one this week against Tampa. That's down the middle. They kind of struggle against tight ends. So, but yeah, he doesn't look like he's going to go this week. I'm going to hang on to him. I actually have Zach Ertz, so I'm in a position to where I can sit him on the bench and hopefully he starts coming through. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hang on to him for now. I just acquired him, so I'm not going to be able to really trade him. Definitely not dropping him. So I'm holding out. I think in a couple weeks he can start showing that upside again.
Yeah, he'll end the year in top 10 tight end conversation. And I fully believe that. You got guys up there like Tyler Higbee's at 5 right now. There's a couple of guys that
Tyler Conklin.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys that are up there that, not saying that they're going to completely fade, but I would have more faith in Pitts over those kind of guys. But you drafted him to put him in the conversation with Andrews and Kelsey, and that's definitely not come to fruition yet. He's kind of another name we could probably talk about real quick is Darren Waller. Like he's kind of in the same kind of motion as Darren Waller. Like he's in the offense. He's valuable to his offense, and he can go off at any time.
We thought there was a top 5, top 3, or whatever of a league. Even Dalton Schultz, we can throw him in.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz was another name.
He was the consensus number 6 guy. But there's been 2, man. There's been 2 that are worth it. Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce, old reliables.
Yeah, and if you don't have either one of those guys, I mean, I drafted because I got best available. Mark Andrews sitting there in the 3rd round. I was like, you know what? I don't draft tight end this high, but I went with it, and it ended up paying off for me. But other guys were drafting like Kyle Pitts and Kittle and guys like that right behind in the next couple of rounds. And you can see the disparity on points there. And it's a luxury position. If you have a top tight end, it's a luxury position. And that's where you can make or break your team. And you know, Kyle Pitts and George Kittle and Schultz and, you know, all these guys, like if those are your tight end one, man, you're hurting. But I think Kyle Pitts is the one guy, maybe Darren Waller's the other guy that are going to pick it up at some point. I really believe that. I think that, you know, they're going to end up
Right.
both in the top 10.
So hang on to so hang on to them, and those are our guys for as far as pull the plug, hang on to trade via trade. Those are our guys that we went over. If you guys have anybody else, make sure you guys subscribe and let us know that some guys that we missed. All right, subscribe, stay tuned.
Make sure you hit the comment section. Like let's see what you know, even to start sits. Like make sure you guys are leaving comments. Like BT said, subscribe, and until next time, A2D.